Have you guys ever played that game, One Word Story, where you and your friends each take turns saying a single word until eventually you form some kind of incoherent mess of a story? Well, this video is a little like that, but with comics. See, I've gathered 10 artists who I'm forcing to work together to make a comic. This comic will be 10 pages long, with each page being made by a different artist. The fun part is that there will be no communication between the artists whatsoever. So there is absolutely no predicting what this comic is going to be about, or if it's going to even end up making any sense by the end. I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? With the first page of the comic. Okay, so if you know me, you know I have way too many OCs. Like, I mean way too many. And since I've got so many OCs, I barely get time to draw any of them. So I thought this collab would be a good chance to show some love to some of my more unused OCs that I haven't actually drawn a lot. Specifically these guys. This is Owlbert and Rouge, and their designs are actually inspired by characters that appeared in a dream I had one time, which is pretty cool to think about. But I remember as soon as I woke up from that dream, I rushed over to my computer to draw these characters because I was just like, oh my god, their designs were so cool, I need to draw them before I forget about them. And now they are some of my favorite OCs that I haven't drawn ever before this collab. I drew them once. They don't really have any kind of story yet, per se, but that actually made them a great choice for this comic collab. Since they have no lore, their lore could end up being anything, and you know, the rest of the people in the collab could decide what the story is. I wanted the first page of the comic to be rather ambiguous as to what the story is about, and rather just focus on introducing the main characters to the audience, and the other artists for that matter. The comic starts with Owlbert flying into some kind of treehouse and being greeted by Rouge. Owlbert then asks Rouge about the situation, and Rouge responds by saying, "You're not gonna like it." As you can probably tell, I left the dialogue intentionally vague as to what the characters are actually talking about, so that the next artist has more freedom to decide the actual direction of the story. Let's see what they came up with, shall we?
Comics are all about flow. The ebbs and turns of chaos can be reined in through the powerful and expressive tool of composition. Here, I was given the honor of following up the beautiful first page Sky illustrated and was entrusted to not only give his characters an investment-worthy direction, but also the world alluded to in the enigmatic fantasy of these woodland guardians. And what better way than to introduce Snugglepaws! I mean, Grizzelgrave! A behemoth of a grizzly bear, wrecking calamity amongst the Papyrus Valley after awakening from his absent slumber. Now, there's a lot of information and detail that can get too messy to follow if you don't manage the flow of your page correctly. I managed to communicate this installment of fantasy by organizing the speech bubbles and focusing visual elements to bounce the reader's eyes elegantly left to right, as so. As well as distincting the different focuses of the story with warm and dramatic lighting for our protagonists and a haunting cool gray for the horrors of Grizzelgrave. Always keep flow in mind when creating your story.
I haven't made a comic page like ever. That's why I asked Skynix to be the Tryhard version of their comic collab. Heck yeah, what could go wrong? I make illustrations and sometimes I even make some doodles with speech bubbles. So theoretically, I could just do both of them at the same time and easy breezy, right? Well, no. Making a comic is way more complex than that. For starters, you gotta think about the composition, but not only about the composition of the individual panels. No, you gotta make sure the entire thing reads well and the direction of the panels flows correctly. And you also gotta have the speech bubbles positions in mind. If you're not careful, the readers might struggle to follow the direction of the panels and the pacing. And on top of that, Skynix asked us to mimic the style as closely as possible and oh no. Line art, my worst enemy. Well, it's difficult, but I think after doing some studies and much practice, I can make it work. Wait, what do you mean I have only 4 days to work on that? Wait, Derry, don't tag me to be next! For the direction I wanted the story to take, I wanted to introduce a new character. At least I introduced her existence and her relevance to the plot, as well as suggesting some past drama between her and the main characters. I also did an establishing shot of her then, because jumping right to introducing her could have felt a bit too abrupt. I thought this might make the story ask some interesting questions. Who is this new character? How can she be useful to the plot? Why is her story with our main characters? What does he even look like? So many questions that I didn't have to answer because my duty here was done. Next!
Are you a furry? Ah, of course not. Me neither. Ignore the suit in the back, that's of personal use. For that reason, I opted for a later page to get some animal studies in. I was a little freaked that I've never drawn before, with their big ol' eyes and feet. Finn paved the way for the introduction of Maeve. From the dialogue in Finn's page, I pictured her as one of those I can give you what you need, but everything has a price kind of characters. So I tried to make her intimidating for her first panel, subtly making the dirt on the floor the shape of a skull. I also kept her design spiky. Her fur designs all end in points compared to Rouge's swirls, and her shawl has triangle details compared to Owlbert's rounder shapes. Designs aside, I still have to forward the plot. So I decided to hint at a wider world, with Maeve asking what Sylvester's done this time, implying this normally would be one of many times she's had to clean up after Sylvester. Page 3 will set up that Maeve has some kind of grudge against Grizzelgrave, so I used my last panel to allude to what it could be. Did he cause her face scars, endanger her children, cause the seeming lack of a father figure? That's for the next person to figure out.
Looks like it's my turn. Now, I made a grave error when I agreed to this. I don't draw animals. I also don't do line art, so enjoy watching me try to do both. Anyway, we're halfway through the comic now, so I thought I'd try and gently push the plot forward. I wanted to play off the drama there seems to be between Maeve and these two, so there's some tension and mistrust going on here. I actually had quite a few ideas because this last panel of Marches opened a lot of directions I could take this, but like I said, we gotta move this forward a little bit, so they better settle their differences quick because it turns out Grizzelgrave is a little closer than they thought. And that seems like a good place to leave mine, so we'll see where the next person takes this. What was that? I think I gotta go.
Hello, chat. When laying out the format of this page, I really had to think of not only the previous page, but the page that's going to come after this. And I'm page 6, so there are only 4 pages left, and I realized that I had to be the turning point in this story. The first panel obviously is showing that Grizzelgrave is about to stomp all over where Maeve lives, and all her pups too. And we can't have that, because look at them, they're so goddamn cute. But to make this panel a little bit more impactful, I decided to put this at a worm's eye perspective. Most of the time, people use worm's eye to have the enemy or like the scary thing looking down on the person reading or the character in the story itself, but in the way that I'm showing this, Grizzelgrave does not care about his surroundings and is stomping everything in his way. Bro does not care if he steps on you. Also, Seb is canon in this universe. All of them are set to a brief moment of silence before just sheer panic ensues, where Owlbert and Foxman Guy rush over to Maeve and just start begging and insulting Maeve in order to get her help. There is a lot going on these bottom panels, and I did that on purpose to try and convey a sense of panic that this big scary Grizzelgrave is gonna come eat us all, and in realizing that there is just a time and a place to be petty, Maeve yells in agreement to help these little guys. The readability of this comic is not the best, but I gave it my all, okay? Okay. This was super fun, and I cannot wait to see the climax of this story unfold. Grizzle these nuts. You know what's in Grizzle? Riz. It's right there. The lore. He's the Grizzler.
I was assigned page 7, and we're really nearing the end of this story. Only a couple more pages to go, and if we're going to wrap this story up neatly in a big climactic scene, I need to be smart with what I did in my page. We've already set up our stakes, some characters, and foreshadowed an epic battle that'll happen soon, so my job is to bridge that gap between the setup and the payoff. So, in my page, I'm mainly tying up loose ends and pushing the story forward so that the people coming up next can solely focus on ending this story right. I added a transition scene and a little bit of exposition to explain why Maeve is coming along in this fight despite her being opposed to it at first. And lastly, setting up the big reveal of Grizzelgrave versus the other animals. This was tough because 1, people added more characters to draw, and 2, those characters are animals. I don't know how to draw animals. I'm terrible at drawing animals, but you know, I think it ended up good enough to be side by side with all the other wonderful pages the others did. Also, I was so worried about drawing the animals correctly that I kind of forgot that I should have been drawing them more on model in Skynix's style. So yeah, my bad. It looks a lot more painterly, darker and gloomy compared to the first page, which looks a lot more bright and fantastical. But hey, the silver lining, I think it could set up the tone for what's about to happen next with the next person drawing.
I was just sitting there working as I do.
Holo, do you want to join my collab?
Yeah, of course. Once I got in, I had to figure out what the story was even about, since I hadn't seen the previous pages. Owlbert? Rouge? Who's this? Grizzelgrave? He's definitely the main bad dude. All the signs I saw of him until then said he's loud, strong and wild, like a wild animal compared to the other characters. The last page before mine shows them running to meet Grizzelgrave head on. I guess that means I'm going to make them meet Grizzelgrave face to face. I wanted them to meet him while he's already looting someone's home, but I decided to make it more dramatic. In this case, they find him attacking an already hurt bunny. We were told to copy the art style of the pages before us, but since Grizzle's stuck in a fit of rage, I wanted him to look more animalistic. I gave him more muscles, more wrinkles, and smaller eyes. Then I wanted them to interrupt him while he's attacking the bunny. They needed to stop him somehow. Just yelling stop wouldn't be cool. Okay, I need to make an important decision. In this world, they have clothing, books, and crystals. Is this a world of magic, or are they just a bunch of nerds? There's no way they could take Grizzle in an all-out physical fight, right? If I decide to keep it purely physical, they only have mouth, wings, and beaks, so they would have to yell, throw a rock, or something to save the bunny. That would look weird. But if I give them magic, it opens up a lot of options for future pages. Earlier there were mention of Sylvester. What would Sylvester have done to make Grizzle so mad? Nah, you know what we do with problems around here? We give them to the next person.
Hi, I'm Gifs. I was in charge of working on page number 9 of this comic, which means the story was about to end. This page was an interesting challenge for me because I don't usually draw animals, so trying to keep them consistent while also making sure they look, not weird. It was a bit challenging, but it was very fun. It was very fun to work on something that I'm not used to. Since we're all working on this comic blind without knowing what comes next, I also had to be careful on how I handle the story. Up until now, Grizzelgrave has been shown as the villain, but Sylvester was only ever mentioned and not actually shown, unless this is Sylvester. This might be Sylvester. But I saw an opportunity, so I thought to myself, what if Grizzelgrave wasn't the real threat? What if Sylvester was the one who actually betrayed everyone? That kind of twist felt like it would add more depth and make things a bit more interesting for the story, so I decided to go with that. I also had to think about how much I could actually fit into one page. It's not like I could go in and add a lot of stuff and a whole scene explaining everything, so I had to make sure the twist landed without overloading the dialogue or adding too much to the panels and making it hard to read. Hopefully it's easy to understand. Of course, that also means that I had to be extra careful with the paneling and the dialogue, so everything flowed as smooth as possible. It's a good project after all, so I had to make sure that my page connects well to everything that happened before, and it was something that I tried to keep in mind as I worked on it. Hopefully I didn't make things too complicated or weird or hard for the next artist. If I did, I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's my page. I really had fun working on it, even if I was overthinking a lot of it. I'm very happy to be able to be part of a project like this. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to see how this story is gonna end.
I was tasked with the final page and I was stressing. What do you mean I had to finish this plot in only one page? I'm so bad at writing endings to my stories despite having done comics before and having many OC universes. I had no idea what to do instead, so I kind of more formatted this as an end of a chapter rather than the end of a story kind of thing. Some may call that a cop-out, but I hope I cooked. I struggled a bit with drawing Owlbert, specifically his beak. My wheelhouse is more so cats, dogs, that kind of sorts. Side note, I love all the designs for the story, everyone is so fun. And I probably made Grizzelgrave too cute looking, especially in that bottom pic, but I tried. I'm sorry, bears are just cute even when they're trying to be scary. And I did attempt to keep that black shading that looked really cool, not sure how I did. Something I knew I wanted to include was a visual for Sylvester since he was brought up so much during the comic, and after googling his name, it meant wooded/forest dweller, and I wanted something majestic, so I ended up making him an albino elk, partially inspired by the albino moose that you can run into in the game The Red Lantern. I also lost all my progress after drawing him and most of the background, having to redo all that. But story-wise, I made the reveal that Sylvester stole the artifact of life and turned this into sort of a life and death must both exist for the balance of the universe type thing. Oh, what will our heroes do now that the great Sylvester is perhaps not morally good? Who knows? Tune in next week. If this existed as an actual story, that is. Text bubble-wise, I did play with having a flower sticking out on one side and a snake wrapped around another part of it. Again, supposed to be representing the whole life and death thing. But yeah, I hope I did good. I took forever to do this page. Thank you for everyone that waited on me. I think if I had more space, I probably would have had our main characters actually talk, but you know, here it is, comic done now. Thank you for having me.
And with the final page done, this comic is complete. Now you guys know the drill by now. Every time we do this, me and some other artists from the collab, get together and we make an official comic dub for the comic we've created. So we've done just that, and now I want to show it off to you guys. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I hope I'm not too late.
Oh, Owlbert, you're here.
Hey Rouge, what's the situation?
You're not gonna like it. Parapis Valley has been turned into rubble.
What? How can this be, Rouge?
It was Grizzelgrave. Grizzelgrave discovered what Sylvester did while he was in hibernation, and is now pilfering every nest from the hill to the river. We suspect him to hit Merrow's Meadow next. If we can't get Sylvester to make amends, Grizzelgrave will ruin us all before winter.
I do not accept this. In fact, dear Rouge, I've already advised of recourse.
You're not talking about her, right?
It's our only chance.
Did you forget what she did to us?
I have not. But in times like this, one must put their past disputes aside to fight the common threat. If I know something Maeve wants more than anything, it is to take Grizzelgrave down.
Look who's come crawling for my help. What's Sylvester done this time?
It's not just Sylvester.
It's Grizzelgrave. He's destroying everything. Please, if you help, you can get revenge.
What do you take me for? You expect me to just put my trust in you two?
Maeve, I know, but if you just—
Revenge isn't a strategy, Owlbert. I've got more to protect now than my pride.
He's coming for everything, Maeve. If Grizzelgrave isn't stopped, none of us will have anything left. He's coming our way.
There's no time to waste.
We have to stop him now.
Please,
we
Maeve.
need help.
We must go now.
Come on already.
We have to hurry.
Please.
Fine. I'll go with you, just keep it down. You're scaring them.
Thanks for coming along.
Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not doing this for your sake or mine. If it takes a war to protect my pups, it'll all be worth it.
We'll be back by nightfall. Don't worry.
I hope you're right. Let's end this once and for all.
Hey guys, get ready. Grizzelgrave is up ahead.
I can't believe he's already caused so much damage.
No way. Stop!
Leave him alone! What did Sylvester even do to you?
Of course you don't know! That coward left you all to clean up his mess!
His mess? Look at what you did! You're just another brute who thinks destruction would solve anything.
Wouldn't you do the same if you got stabbed in the back?
Huh?
Sylvester betrayed us all. Sylvester stole the artifact of life. Life and death must both exist. The fool will destroy the balance of nature in his pursuit of eternal life! We must stop him.